All right, people, welcome back. I'm Kalani. This is a brief talk on music facilitation and specifically community music facilitation. And whether you're interested in doing community music making or not, this will help you, I think, in all areas of your life where you facilitate a discussion or a process, a meeting, all kinds of things. So I'm going to give you some do's and don'ts. Let's get started. In the context of community music making, and specifically music therapy, because I do a lot of work with groups of all types and all sizes, there's a few things that I do consistently to help people feel more engaged and more involved and to bring out people's ideas so that they can see themselves in the community music. So this would apply to a business meeting, for example, a brainstorming session, a family meeting, any kind of meeting, even something with your partner where it's just you and one other person. But I'll put it in the context of music. You can apply these concepts however you want. All right, so the goal of community music facilitation, and I want to be clear, this is different than getting ready for a performance, right? We're not talking about learning a piece and performing it for an audience, for example, or even for ourselves. It's not about performance. This is about encouraging creativity, getting people to express themselves and to share their own unique ideas with the group, and then for that group to play together and come together and be some sort of cohesive ensemble. So that's kind of the goal. Now, there's a few obvious things, but I'm just going to mention them. One of the things you don't want to do is start to dictate, and what we could refer to that as giving out parts for people to play. And I've seen a lot of people do this, a lot of different kinds of facilitators, doesn't matter what instrument it is, but people will start handing out parts or passing out parts, and they'll say, you guys over here, or you individual, do this, and they'll give them something, usually through echoing, or they'll just, do the thing, and they'll say, that's your part, and then they'll move to the next group, and they'll say, now this is your part, you guys do this. All right, that's not facilitation, that is dictating, and that is basically you're making people do things, all right? Now, we do that with kids sometimes. I think it's kind of a mistake because what that implies is that, first of all, it implies that I'm the boss of you, right? I'm the boss. I'm in control. I'm going to tell you what to do. That's not conducive to encouraging people to be creative and to submit their own ideas or to try things out. It's just not. It's in direct conflict to that. So be mindful of that. Try not to hand out parts unless somebody asks you for an idea or a suggestion. I don't know what to do. What can I do? Give them an example. Show that, well, you could do this, or you could do that, or you could do this. Give them a couple, 2 or 3 things if they ask. But I would say do this instead. Give a prompt like, hey, what do you got? Or let me hear you. What do you got? Try something, which relates to another thing. Okay, so that's the first thing. It relates to another thing that you could do, which is give a prompt, right? That's basically a prompt. A prompt can be verbal. You can say it. Hey, let's hear what you got. Or hey, would you start us out, right? That's something I might do in a group. But it can also be nonverbal. It can be just visual, like, let's go. Or you can start to play yourself, which we call modeling, right? Modeling is when you do the thing that you hope other people will do. You're a model. You're just leading the way by example. So just start playing. That's another way to prompt and to also to ground and offer a little bit of guidance, but not in a bossy way, just in a, okay, well, where are we going to go on this? We're going on a hike. Where are we going to go? Well, I'm going to start walking down here. You guys can come with me if you want, but I'm going to head this way. Kind of like that. So it's just leading the way, as it were. Okay, so we talked about prompting. Here's another one. Creating spaces. Creating space, right? We don't want to fill the musical space with our own ideas, as in handing out parts. That's one way we can fill it. But the other way we could fill the space is just by being really busy, by playing a lot, And what we can do to encourage people to join in is actually, there's a couple things. One is literally leaving spaces. So if I'm playing something, you know, I could be playing and then I might just leave a space. And I could repeat that, you know. So I'm playing and now we hear everybody and they can hear themselves better in that space. Now another thing that's related to that is maybe not going all the way to silence, but we call it receding or fading. And that is where, again, maybe you've been modeling, you've been playing, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a drum, could be another instrument. You've been playing, providing support, you know, providing some, what we call grounding, maybe some modeling, some guidance. And then you just, either through reducing your volume or making what you're doing a little more sparse, so you can reduce the density, right? Or you can reduce the intensity. And what that does is it reduces your influence and your impact on the group. Why is that a good thing? Because if you reduce, let's just look at volume. Let's say these are volume levels. If you reduce your volume, what happens to the volume of your participants? It's higher. So they don't have to go like this to have more presence. You can just lower what you're doing, right? We call that fading or receding. That is super powerful. Now, it's not to suggest that everybody gets softer. That's a different thing. That's where you just, you know, reduce the entire volume of the ensemble. That's different. This is about you reducing your influence in the group. Why? Again, so that the participants will take on more leadership, they'll have more volition, more autonomy, and, you know, hopefully feel more confident and present and important in the group music making. Another thing that you don't want to do, and then I'm going to give you one more thing that you do want to do, but another thing that you really want to avoid is a lot of conducting. And I also see a lot of facilitators who were taught or who decided that, you know, conducting, in other words, giving verbal and visual signals and commands is the way to facilitate. And again, a little bit of that goes a long way. I've heard some people actually use the word facilitate in place of the word conduct. I think if you're conducting, in your mind, just to train yourself to know the difference between facilitating a process and conducting, is when you're conducting, just say, I'm conducting. Don't say, I'm facilitating. Not the same thing. Because conducting is a command. If you think about it, it's commanding people to do things. I don't care if you can go like this. You don't have to say it. That's nice, isn't it? A visit from the Koshi chime fairy. You're not saying everybody play softer, right? But that's what you're basically implying. I mean, everybody knows what that means. Or you're doing this, or you're doing that, or you're doing this, or you're doing whatever you're doing. Just because you're not saying stop, you know, if you go like this and everybody stops, you might as well say stop. Now, would you do that with somebody you're having a conversation with, or somebody you're having a meeting? Would you just go stop? Hopefully not. If you're trying to encourage them to be part of the process and to, again, be a valued member of the community and to value their ideas. We don't do that to people. We don't shut people down. So really be careful about the conducting stuff. I've talked about that before. That's all I'm going to say about that. The last thing you can do, it's not the only, this is not an exhaustive list, but one other thing that you can do when you're facilitating and you want to encourage people to, contribute their own ideas, you want to let people know that you believe that they are important and their ideas are important and should be heard, is this. There's two ways you can do this. The basic idea we call synchronizing. You can use the word mirroring or shadowing or doubling. It's essentially playing what somebody else is playing and kind of coming into the music, a little bit under somebody else. Let's say somebody's just playing, I'm just going to use this drum because it's here. let's say somebody's playing that, right? In the context of the music. And then I would play. Right? I'm reinforced. I'm basically playing what they're playing. It doesn't have to be exact. It could be exact, or it can just encapsulate the essence of what they're doing. And if you play a little bit of what they're doing, I call that marking. Marking is like a shorter version, slimmed down version of synchronizing. Synchronizing would be playing exactly the same thing, rhythmically, basically, because these are different instruments. But basically, you're just kind of joining with that person's music. Marking would be somewhat joining with it. In other words, playing part of what they're doing. And what does that do? That's a super powerful technique that I think is underutilized. But what are the implications? First of all, musically, you are giving their part more body, more weight, you're making it more salient. In other words, you're making it a bigger part of the whole, right? So you're adding volume, you're adding presence, all right? That's one thing you're doing. But the implication from let's say a social implication or psychological or interpersonal is that you're saying, hey, I hear you and I'm going to support you in what you're doing. I'm going to come over to you, to your thing, and I'm going to do what you're doing because I think it's awesome. How cool is that, right? And you don't have to make a big deal out of it. You just do it in the context of music meeting. They may not even notice. And you can do that, as I do, with several people's music, kind of, shifting, moving around, just connecting with what people are doing and synchronizing or marking what they're doing to add body, to add support. And that, my friends, is super powerful. If you'd like to know more about how to use these kinds of techniques, you could get my book, The Way of Music, Creating Sound Connections in Music Therapy. I'll leave a link below. You could come over to patreon.com and take the course, The Drum Circle, A Musical Approach. I go over a lot of these techniques in that series. That's included at the course's level. You could also come over to Patreon, become a patron, and ask me questions and ask for videos. I have a lot of other videos there. Besides what's in the course, I try to produce these community music facilitation videos for patrons of the channel. So you can do those things. You can also contact me through kalanimusic.com. I also have a book called Together in Rhythm. That's a very popular music facilitation book. Whatever you do, I wish you the best of luck. And I just want to say enjoy making music and enjoy the art of community music facilitation. All right, thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you in a future video.